All right, all right. Welcome to Grey's Academy 301. I don't know about you guys, but this music's got me relaxed. You know, we've got a week of conf, and kind of relaxed. I'm sure a lot of people a little bit of a little fatigued, a lot of information probably coming at you this week. So we'll just kind of make it fun this week. Kind of dig into some stuff that it's near and dear, makes it a little bit easier. But focus on some industrial data this week and how to kind of get that into Splunk and what exactly does that mean. So that's what the agenda is today. Let's talk about Splunk and OPC and what that means. Forward-looking statement. If anything comes up, if you need to pause that, please feel free to read that. I am your host, Gray Juba. I'm a technical marketing manager focused on industries and new markets and innovation. I'm a former automation and controls engineer in manufacturing environments. Made things like flooring, chewing gum, uh, gummies, worms, and things of that nature, and programmed the machine that did those things. Splunker now for 4 years. I actually updated that today. 4 years this month, and was a customer before. Focus on non-traditional use cases of Splunk. First conf was in 2016, and things that I like to do for hobbies. So if you have some questions, want to know more about me, I'm a home brewer, beekeeper, barbecuer, and fisherman. So, kind of like to tell people I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. Oftentimes, a master of one. I can't remember that full phrase, but you get the point. So sweepstakes, I dropped that in the chat. Maybe I can do that real quick again for the people that are going to be following along. You can hit the QR code, but I'll put the sweepstakes back into the chat. Ends October 31st. 10 winners, one entry per person. Winners are announced next month, and you get a $25 gift card to the Splunk gift shop. So if you want to get a T-shirt, something like that, swag, a water bottle or something like that, sign up, fill out the survey, and enter into the drawing. So a little bit about Grey's Academy. It's a part series, the first Thursday, second Thursday, and third Thursday. Today we're doing the 301 series. It's a proficiency level expert. We're not going to go into a lot of the fundamentals of what Splunk is and how it works, but we may dabble, I can answer some questions. But we're going to be focused on, like, for example, today, OPC and what that means to get that data into Splunk. Some of the other things, if you really want to dig in, how to use Splunk, get started. We have this thing called on the first Thursday. It's the 101. It's the beginners Splunk 101. Get data into your environment and start doing your first Splunk searches. Excuse me. The second Thursday is the intermediate level, where we learn some of the products and features inside of Splunk and kind of deep dive into those solutions to find out more information about it. A little bit about the live streaming theme. We're here to have fun. We don't make mistakes. We just make happy little accidents. Questions, make it interactive, have that comp feel, and you're not here to watch me sometimes play games that I've played before. You want to go follow along with me. We learn as we go. We dive into areas that, I may not know, and we'll have some fun with it. Moderators are here, ask questions and make sure I stay on track at times, but it's good times. All right, so we're just going to jump into it today, and we're going to kind of start figuring out what OPC is. So let me go ahead and share that screen real quick. Let me see if that makes it easier. There we go. Just give me a second, just getting it set up for us. All right. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. So, what is OPC and what exactly does that mean? Essentially, OPC is a standard of communication for getting data from the manufacturing environment, anything that speaks a specific protocol. These are specifically like PLCs. I just drew a blank on the DCS systems, and basically how to pull that data from those disparate solutions into Splunk or into any type of data environment and type of aggregate it together, and kind of think of it as like a standard of communication between these devices. And I kind of like to refer to it as a like a printer driver on how to communicate to these devices. Most of the time, it's meant for sending data transfer to and from the devices, but it can be used for other things as well. But today, we're going to be focused mainly on that data aspect. So we're going to be leveraging a solution called Kepware. And it is one of the OPC solutions that are available. And more specifically, we'll be highlighting the Kepware to Splunk solution. So if you see right here, we kind of basically, this is a good graph and diagram that kind of describes exactly what's going on. You have your PLCs. You can actually connect to other OPC servers. So let's say, for example, you have a solution, whether it be an OEM type of OPC server. With Kepware, you can actually connect OPC to OPC and then map all that data and then stream it into Splunk. RTUs or other solutions, databases, and connectors. So let's say, for example, I think some historians, you can connect directly to those and then bring that into Splunk, and sensors and actuators directly to those devices on the edge. So kind of like a little bit about what we're looking for. You've got the Kepware server, and the interfaces get to Splunk Cloud. And we'll actually dive into the Kepware solution. I've got a demo running that's 2 hours, and I'll show you how that process. But if you want to and download it, you can get a 2-hour trial license that you can restart as you go through the whole process. But you can go to download the Kepware Kep server I've already done that here on my side. And this is a little bit more about the industrial data forwarder for Splunk that you can see. So just kind of showing you what we're going to be going through. And first things first, let's highlight. So our goal today is we are going to, I've already installed the Kep server. I'm going to start it up, and then we're going to use some of that demo data inside of the Kep server that kind of builds some kind of dummy data. And then we might bring some, do some testing, dashboarding, and just kind of show you how that whole process works. So let's get started. So we'll double click. I've actually already said you see in our tray down here. And right now I do not have it running. So what we're going to do first things first is we're re-initialize the server. And it kind of starts our 2-hour license trial up again. And kind of highlight some things as we go along. So over here on the left-hand side, you have your connectivity in your projects. And think of this as mapping out to those devices on the edge, and how that would look. And fundamentally, it works like this. So let's say we want to map a new channel. We'll create a new channel. And this is where you would specify the specific device type. It can be whether you're connecting via a specific, like say, brand, or you can do it also based off of protocols associated to. So let's say Siemens has like S7, Allen Bradley. Actually, I don't remember what the Rockwell communication platform, but you can do Ethernet, EtherCAT, all these different protocols, and this is what kind of helps you get started with that. So what you would do is you say, okay, I'm going to connect to, let's say, a Siemens, S7 TCP internet. I think that's the one that we would want to do. We're not actually going to go down the whole line with it. We'll give it a call, Siemens. Click next, default network adapter. This would be like, what is your IP? What's your connector? Like, what's the specific device on your computer that's going to connect to it? And most of the time in your environments, let's say your automation control engineer will actually have already done all of this for you, because this is just kind of the infrastructure that they have set up. And what we will focus on is the latter half. I'm just kind of going through this process so you can understand how it works. We'll just leave it at default, click next. This is where you can say write all values for the latest values, duty cycles, like how often do you want to write it. We're going to leave this at default. We won't worry about that right now. And then you click finish. And basically you create a new channel. And then, so when people talk about the IT/OT convergence, this is kind of where this all starts, is right around this area. So we would want to connect to, let's say, in-feed section of a manufacturing process. In-feed. And we'll click next. We're going to say it's an S7 1500 series. And then this is where you would type in your IP address, like 192.168.1.55. Actually, we're going to change that for, so we'll just say 80. And all these, in a manufacturing environment, all these IP addresses are static, traditionally speaking. And all these you don't have to worry about dynamic IP addresses. They should be static and set accordingly. And scan mode. And next, connection timeout. We'll skip all these. Demote on failure, disable. And demote means basically stop trying to check it and stop trying to find out if that PLC is on or off. And we're going to just go ahead and click next. And finish. So basically at this point, what we have done is we have defined that PLC of a certain type inside of the environment. And you can organize this however the structure, but know that sometimes this will matter about how that data is tagged and the information that goes into the Splunk environment. From here, once you're inside of this PLC, you would define, let's say, a specific tag, not a group. We won't go into full-on details, but this is where you would address specifically to that direct location where that data exists on the PLC. Again, we'll kind of forego this part right now, but just know that that's existing. So we do have some simulated data inside of this environment. For example, we have some ramp information. Ramp basically it just kind of defines it goes up and down. And we also have some random numbers, some signs, some general like hello world type of things. And we're going to actually just bring that all into Splunk. So what we want to look at for is this IDF for Splunk here. And this is the part where we're actually going to make the connection from our OPC server into our Splunk instance. I'm going to close this real quick so you can kind of see how this works and see if I can drop this to the right. And what we're going to be leveraging is the IDF for Splunk leverages the TCP input into the Splunk instance. So with that being said, we're going to add a new connection and we're going to call this my Splunk instance. And we're going to loop back address and we're going to select the 51112 port. We're going to copy that and we're going to click on enable. And then over here on the left-hand side, we're going to click on data inputs. And we're going to add a new TCP input. Sure, I'm going to go back because I was doing some testing earlier. So let me make sure I don't have this one already created inside of my environment. And we might have to delete that one because let me delete that one real quick. Yeah, so new local TCP. So basically, let's start back real quick. I was in my search and reporting app. And then we're going to click on settings, data inputs. And we're going to click on TCP, add new. And I'm going to paste in that port number, which is 51112, and leave everything else default. Focus on TCP, and we're going to create a new source type. We're going to call this Kepware. And we are going to create a new index. We'll call this Kep or OPC. Leave everything else as default. And index is now OPC. Everything else should look good. We're going to lowercase the source type. Review and submit. So when I search, I shouldn't see any data because I just created that new index, new source type equals Kepware. So now we've created this my Splunk instance over here on the IDF. And now we need to add tags to be streamed over into our Splunk instance. So that's pretty simple. We'll come over here, we'll right click on my Splunk instance and we'll say new Splunk items. So we can multi-select and basically what we see here. So we're going to have the tree over here on the left-hand side, similar to what we see up here. And underneath project, we have connectivity. Scroll down to simulation examples and functions. We're going to look for that on the same side. And we go to simulation examples. and then functions, and this is where we'll see all those tags. One thing to note that you can also monitor is the health of your devices in that environment. So, for example, you can see the statistics, failure, pending reads, pending writes, and just kind of some of the other environmental factors. So, if you're wanting to troubleshoot things, so think of it this way: while or if you're doing some kind of machine learning or predictive analytics, you need to make sure that you're taking data, or let's say when the PLC is running. So let's say an automation engineer goes out to the manufacturing line, does some testing, and shuts down the PLC for a little bit. You kind of need to know that that exists. So that's one of the things you can kind of monitor here. But going back, we're going to click on functions, see if I can, and we're going to do the top one, and then shift hold, and then click apply. Update rate. So one of the things you can think about as you're ingesting this data into Splunk, the update rate at which the data is sent to Splunk, and whether or not you want it to send data on data change. So I only want to send it into Splunk when the value at the PLC or DCS system changes, or do you want it to be on every single scan? In this particular case, we're going to have some fun with this. So we're going to set it up for it to be every single scan. So go ahead and in this metadata here, let's say you want to add some additional information associated to it that while setting this up, this came from the in feed, or this, and then you can just kind of do like your name value pairs like you would just normally ingest, and this would be just kind of appended onto the end, I believe, into Splunk. So we'll leave that blank. Update rate 100 milliseconds or 1,000 milliseconds, so once every second, and then click OK. And now we see all those tags. Okay, failed to connect. Connection my Splunk failed to connect. Okay, so then it updated and it says that it is connected now. And it looks like we are good. So if I run this, we should see data. Perfect. We are seeing data now in our Splunk instance. So I know today we've got an hour-long stream, but I just want to show you and highlight that while I did have Kepware installed, I was able to get data from our OPC server into Splunk in, I mean, we've only been streaming now for about 18 minutes. And I think I started the demo about, I don't know, 15, or probably about like maybe less than 10 minutes ago. So it's really kind of neat how quickly you can get the data from the manufacturing environment into Splunk. So let me grab a sip of my water. We can talk about why that is really interesting, why that might be valuable. So, Splunk is great about pulling data from multiple different sources simultaneously. And while you pull data from multiple environments, it's really interesting to say, okay, I'm going to pull in my manufacturing data. I'm going to pull in my quality data for my manufacturing environment, like what's off quality, what are things going through my ERP system, my other different solutions that really kind of give me a holistic view about what my manufacturing environment is producing. When you start thinking about overall equipment effectiveness, knowing whether that system or PLC is up and running, what are the tags? Is the system saying it's running? Is it not running? And kind of building that. And then when you start doing predictive analytics, this is all built into that kind of infrastructure. So see if I've got any questions or anything like that, but it looks like we're good for now. So now that we have that data in, let's kind of just dig in and show you exactly what it looks like. So we have our tags associated to, and that's what in the OPC and manufacturing environment, they'd refer to each one of these as tags. And that tag, where you see tag here, is that name structure. And you can see it's also what is the word I'm looking for? Dot delimited structure. So you can see the hierarchical structure of that tag. So you can see simulation examples, dot function, dot ramp. So if we come over here on the left-hand side, we see simulated functions underneath our project. dot functions dot ramp. So now you know exactly where that tag came from, and it stores all that information. And you see the value and the status of the quality of good. If I recall correctly, the status quality good represents whether or not the communication with the device is active and healthy. So that means that is the latest value that came from that device at that point in time. And when you, let's say you want to add additional metadata, we were kind of talking about that before. See, I can't remember where that was specifically located, but you can add that metadata that can bring in additional functionality associated to that particular device as it comes into Splunk. So now, once you've got it in, you can just do all those standard things within the Splunk application. So, but maybe this is going to be something that may be more beneficial to put inside of the metrics environment. Well, lucky for you, if you're interested. So let's go to Splunk base. I worked on and created a quick app. So if you go to Kepware IDF to metrics, so this the industrial data forwarder into the Splunk's metric index. So this actually breaks it out and makes it easier so that you can leverage the metrics index and the speed and efficiency associated to that. And it also has a couple of dashboards and visualizations. We won't go through the whole process, but actually you can see the guide on how to go through the process to set it up in the details section of the app. So let's just have some fun. Let's build some dashboards, and we'll make it a pretty simple, fun stream, and then we'll call it a day. So, looking at our data, let's spend some time and look at specific tags. Let's look at ramp 1. Now we should see only for ramp 1. And then for value, we want to see average over time. All right. So one of the things we're looking at here, let me control pipe that so it kind of cleans it up for us and hide this auto open so we can see our screen. So one of the things, as you can see, is that we aren't looking at necessarily, we're looking like an aggregation based off of, it looks like maybe 5-second intervals. So that may not necessarily be what you want, especially when you're looking at processing control data. So time chart is one way of doing it. But there's another command. If you're familiar with Splunk, you want to use what's called XY series. Now, I have to forewarn you before we jump into the XY series command. I do always struggle with it the first time I do this command, so we're going to probably fumble a little bit as we go through the process, but it shouldn't be too hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this, and we are going to make our life easier. We're going to table tag. So first we want to do time, tag, and value. And perfect. So there's our time, tag, and value. And if I do this correctly, let's pull like XY series. And I'm going to actually pull this auto open to see if we can use the tools that help and make our lives a lot easier. So XY series, and we're going to look at more. And if I look at this correctly, let's look at the document. Let's look at the help. All right, so if we scroll down to the bottom where I always like to do, we're going to go to our examples. So if I look at the examples, we want to look at, so stats count. Where's the XY series? There we go, client IP. So we want to put the tag first. And then we want to put our y-axis and then I think the x-axis. So we want to do, I think it's X. So actually, it's underscore time tag, and it might be, this might just be the order. Oop, I misspelled value. And if I look at this correctly, now we can see all those data points as it ramps up for every single iteration of that data coming into Splunk. So now you're wondering, okay, well, that's great because we're only looking at one tag. Well, maybe I want to look at all my tags. So we can just drop in here and put tag equals star at the stop. And if I understand that, yep, perfect. So now, of course, we've got some overlay and things of like all different ramps and things like that. So let's do sign, S-I-N star. Oops. Wildcard that too. And now we can see all of our sine waves and all the different points of that tag going through the process. And very simple and easily, we've just created this visualization to view the absolute values of that particular tag inside of Splunk and compared them against multiple different environments. So as you're like thinking about from like a manufacturing environment, and I'm an operator or something like that, what would be the first thing that I would want to build for my users to help kind of diagnose learning their own structure? Like it is a process engineer and they want to know more about how to diagnose things that are going on in the environment. Dashboard. Let's build a dashboard that's going to make their life a lot easier. So we'll go ahead and we're going to say new dashboard, and we'll call this in-feed and we'll save it private until we are ready to go. We're going to just, today we're just going to keep it in classic dashboards, and we're going to visualization line chart. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Again, we're not doing anything, this isn't real data, but this is kind of giving you a guidance about how maybe those manufacturing environments and how to kind of diagnose. So we are going to add an input, and we'll do our time picker because, of course, we need to know when we're doing this investigation of, let's say, a line stop, and we want to compare, see exactly what's going on. And then the next one we want is the tag selector. And we'll get just as far as we can with this today. Let's do a single dropdown, and then we might convert that to a multi-select if we have enough time. All right, so first things first, let's link up our time reach picker, and we'll use the shear time picture. Field 1 represents that one. You can see that right here. Field 1, apply. Again, remember, we just started ingesting this data into this, so we're not going to have, let's say, like the last 2 weeks or something like that, but it'll get us going for today. Let's click save. And what we're going to do is now edit this one, and we're going to call this tags. And tag and click. Actually, we're going to have to build some. Let's build that search that drives this tags real quick. I'm going to copy this real quick. Copy. And actually, click save. And we're going to just open this bottom search. I like how I pointed at the screen. We're going to open up this bottom search into a new window. And we'll delete this. I think we want to do stats count tag. Whoop, capital T, case sensitive. And now when I click return, okay, by tag. There we go. Use your Splunk brain, Gray. There we go. So now we've got a list of all of our tags that are coming into our environment. Real simple. And we will fields minus count. And then we got rid of that field over there. And now we have 24 individual tags. So come back over to our dashboard here, and we'll click on Edit. And what we want to do is scroll down to Dynamic Options, and we'll place that. Generally speaking, you'll want to do last 24 hours, but there might be times like when we were mentioning before, the PLC has gone offline, and you might be looking at something like this last 2 months. Really what we want to do, and we won't get into here, but there is a way to actually, what we really want to do is just say like last 7 days. It's a little bit more expensive than we want it to be, but it'll work. And then field for label is going to be tag, and field for value is going to also be tag. And when I click apply, it should, let's click save. I now have a full list of all my tags in my environment that I can now drive this visualization here. Okay, so the first step first, we're just going to look at one tag in our environment, and then we'll move into having a multi-select, so we can multi-select multiple tags. So if, let's say, I want to compare the RPM of a spindle compared to the ambient temperature compared to a bearing, to see if maybe there's some correlation between the spindle speed and the bearing being hot and the ambient temperature, to see if we can find something out. I mean, that would be 3 different data points. So it would be good to maybe start your machine learning predictive analytics to figure out maybe you've got a bearing failure or something of that nature to kind of bring that in. Okay. All right. So we're just going to select one of these real quick so we have it. And if I understand correctly, I remember, like I said, token is tag. And then we come in here, and where we have tag equals star sign, what we're going to do is we're going to say $tag, $sign. And what we've done is we've wildcarded that token from the visual, or from that selector above, and we've dropped it into this and into this search. So it's driving the search for us. Okay, so perfect. We got our first bug. Let's figure out what's going on. So you might be building this. Actually, let's just refresh this page real quick. It's one of the first steps. Refresh the page, get it back into normal, because we have created a bunch of different things. And okay, so how do you diagnose something like this? What is the best way of doing it? Well, I find is to open it up in search. So it will basically, whatever tag is being filtered and created here is driving down into this one. So we can figure out exactly what our issue is. So click on open and search. And maybe let's just, first things first, let's just drop this parentheses around that. Let me see if that's, okay. Okay, that was our problem. So it had to do with the fact that I needed to add, not parentheses, what are those quotes here? Double quotes. And so we'll drop those double quotes here. We'll click apply. Beautiful, beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So now I've got a dashboard. Okay, first things first. See how this is kind of short here? We want to expand it out a little bit so we can see better. If you go into edit mode and you click on this little dot here and then you expand it down and then click save, it'll save it as kind of like that wider view. And now as we're going across these, we can select on different tags. And you can see all the, I think this is, random views. So you can see all the random numbers are coming across that. Okay, so now the next step of what we want to do is we want to have a multi-select. So this is going to be a little bit more of a process, but it shouldn't be too difficult for us. And when we click on edit here, we've got our tags here. First thing we need to do is change this type to a multi-select. And then what we need to realize is this is where we're going to be spending our token options. So our token is tag. We're not worried about default value or initial value right now. But what we need is now to build our SPL in this preview panel that's going to match with this right here. Okay. So basically, whatever I build in that preview panel that you saw is going to fall right here. So to kind of clean this up a little bit, we're going to actually delete these quotes real quick because I think we're going to just include those quotes inside of the building process. And we're actually going to delete tag as well. So we're basically going to build that whole string structure and drop it right there to filter out the search, to build that filtering search for us. Yeah, so it's going to break when I press OK, but that's expected. Okay. And it didn't break. Weird. Okay, well, we will worry about that later. Oh, okay. It still worked because I just dropped in a tag value and I didn't specify it, so it's just like a more broad search, which Splunk does well. But now what we want to do is do the multi-select. Okay, so multi-select. So the token prefix is tag equals single quote. So now we see tag equals value. And then what we need to do is token suffix. We need to put another quote. But now what we also need to, actually what we're going to do, tag token prefix, token value prefix, token value suffix. Okay, actually we're going to delete this here. And we need to put this down here, token value prefix. And then we're going to put a quote. And then our delimiter is going to be space or space. So now when you're looking at this, we got tag equals quote value 1, close quote, space or. So that's our a Boolean Boolean logic operator that's saying if value equal, or if it's this value or this value or this value, and then we're going to filter them down and drop them into the search. So if I do this, so if I click apply here, all right, and we'll click save. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just kind of refresh this dashboard so we can always make sure we're working. And what do we call it? In-feed diagnostics. That's what we called it. Okay, last 24 hours. And if we did this right, we should be able to select, we're going to select sine wave 1. And then we're going to select sine wave 2. And sine wave 3. And now I've got a Splunk search. Let's select one of these random ones. That should be fun. Perfect. So now I've got a dashboard that has 2 searches and helps diagnose and visualize things. So what you could do is, let's say, for example, you've got a process engineer or somebody that's wanted to kind of build their own investigative tool for defining the issues that are going on in their environment. And this is one of the first dashboards and panels that I'd love to build for my engineers, manufacturing engineers, so they could start diagnosing their own tools. Because a lot of the times what they'll have to do is they'll have to go to, let's say, a historian and extract that data out from the historian. They'll have to go to the quality control solution and extract that data out. They'll have to go to their miscellaneous ERP system, MES system, and they just have to collect and collect and collect and collect and collect and collect and collect. Once they collect all this data, their next step is then to input it into some kind of spreadsheet and do VLOOKUPs and searches. And the problem with going this route, it's not that it's not effective and doesn't function correctly. It's the fact that once they built that spreadsheet, they're only looking at yesterday's or whenever they did that. And then the time between them solving that problem, that spreadsheet is for, let's say, last week's or the week before or something like that. But with Splunk, if you have all the data pulled into a single environment, you now can correlate your manufacturing execution system, your enterprise, I don't know what ERP stands for right now off the top of my head, in your process data onto a single environment. You can say, this is what the reason for our downtime is. This is the reason for our issues inside of our environment. And very simply and easily, you can, build this tool for your engineers to help them save time. And that's really what it comes down to is when I used to build these from when I was in the manufacturing space is it's all about building time and doing the self-service analytics because at the end of the day the person solving the problem um, the person that was solving the problem, which was an engineer that was leveraging a spreadsheet, this allowed them to be in the driver's seat, solve problems in real time with today's data, with last minute's data, and see this pop up. And eventually, as the engineers kind of started taking off, they see the value of this, and then they build their own dashboards and visualizations. And the next thing you're doing is, let's say, a Splunk admin is coming through here saying, "Hey, we can't do that search. Don't do all indexes. Don't do all time." And that's the fun of it. So once you start getting people hooked on this, you really start seeing the value really really quickly. So I just kind of want to highlight that today and see what everybody's thoughts are. See if you got any questions. I know it's been a long week. Everybody's probably been full on splunking this whole time and learning. I'm sure everybody caught the stream yesterday, but or the closing out of comp. But just wanted to give you a quick rundown about how you can pull data into Splunk from an industrial or manufacturing environment and then correlate your end-to-end data to everything solution into a single solution. So if there's no questions, I think that's really what I was going to kind of cover today. We can go into this more if people are interested, but this is where you start seeing that real, as far as the return on an invest or return on that manufacturing, really kind of start seeing those gears turn, pun intended, in that cost saving. All right. Let's see. Perfect. Well, let me go ahead and we will do our closeout. This is always the fun transition. Let's make sure that I actually share my screen this time around. There we go. So we just completed with the demo. Usually at this point in time, I'm saying conf is coming up, conf is coming up, but we've already done that. Conf has come. And if you appreciate it, if you guys could fill out the survey if you liked what we went over today. Fill it out, ask some questions. I'll drop the link into the chat real quick. There's the survey. I'll drop it in LinkedIn as well. And give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. You got to smash the like button or whatever you prefer. But thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you had fun. And maybe we can make some of these deep dives. I really, was my passion is the industrial and IoT applications, and really kind of maybe continue building onto that dashboard and visualization and show you guys really how Splunk can really change that environment for you guys. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining.